The Constitution of Kenya 2010 sought to address marginalization by providing recognition and protection of rights of minority groups and marginalized communities. Marginalized areas lack or have limited access to basic services such as clean water, healthcare, and education. They also have poor access to roads and electricity. The Commission on Revenue Allocation (CRA) is mandated under Article 216, Section 4 of the Constitution to develop a policy that sets out the criteria by which marginalized areas are identified for purposes of sharing revenues from the Equalization Fund.
The Commission is mandated to draft a policy which we call the Marginalisation Policy, in which 1, the Commission determines who is marginalized, and number 2, comes up with a criteria for the allocation of the Equalization Fund to ensure that those areas that are lagging are also given an opportunity or provided with a fund that will ensure they have basic access to services that will bring them as close as possible to a level enjoyed by the rest of the country.
The fund is to provide basic services in water, roads, health facilities and electricity to marginalized areas in order to bring them to the level generally enjoyed by the rest of the nation. The first policy identifying marginalized areas was published by the Commission in 2013. It was used to share revenue from the Equalization Fund to 14 counties identified as marginalized. The period of the first policy ended. CRA has developed the second policy identifying marginalized areas. Marginalized areas in the second policy were identified using indicators on access to safe drinking water, use of improved sanitation, use of electricity, net primary school attendance rates, and net secondary school attendance rates. Areas that are marginalized grapple with inadequate or dilapidated health facilities, which have low staffing or are poorly equipped. They lack electricity and have poor sanitation facilities, which is a major risk to human health and the environment.
We don't offer lab services due to lack of electricity. So if the government help us to get electricity quickly, we can start services, lab services.
Wakina mama wamenisumbua sana. Niko CPC ya Lulu. So mimi nitapeleka hao mpaka Barcelona, wanasalia njiani. Tena ni volunteers. Kuna mshahara serikali ananipatia ndio nitumie hata hiyo yangu kupeleka kwa kuitisha magari. Hiyo ni mateso.
Schools in marginalized areas are sparsely dispersed, have poor infrastructure, lack boarding facilities, and teachers are inadequate. Insecurity and wildlife attacks in some marginalized areas affect school attendance. In addition, early marriages and pregnancies adversely affect education of the girl child.
Ile changa wanasema hiyo ni ng'ombe imesimama. Ndio maana unapata huyo mtoto wakati akiwa 4 years kuna tuchanga kidogo anafalishwa. Akifika 6 kuna early marriages, ikifika 10 huyo ni mwanamke ya mtu.
Water is essential in health, industry, agriculture, energy, and domestic use. Communities in marginalized areas are particularly vulnerable to inadequate water, drought, flooding, pollution, unsafe water due to high salt content and waterborne diseases.
Sisi tulikuwa tangu tutoke tutumie hii kisima tu. Maji yake ni chumvi. Sasa madhara kwa harahara iko. Alafu kuna shida tu.
Maji tambu town inapata kutoka kilomita 40 kutoka eneo la mahali inaitwa Dabasiti. Inaletwa na watabusa 20 lita moja inauzwa 40 shillings. Na sukari nusu kilo inauzwa 45 shillings. Bei ya maji na bei ya sukari ni sawa.
Roads play a critical role in enhancing access to basic services such as health, education, and movement of goods. In most marginalized areas, there is poor road network.
Mtu akitoka Kabarnet akiuliza tu, Rotu, siwezi enda. Wanatembea kilomita 81 na mguu, hakuna barabara imeingia huko tangu.
In many marginalized areas, when it rains, rivers overflood onto roads, making them impassable. In some cases, bridges linking areas are washed away, cutting areas off. In addition, many marginalized areas lack communication utilities such as telephone network connectivity.
Ina maana ukishatoka hizo kilomita 30 ama hizo kilomita 50 ukishaingia hapa, mambo na mawasiliano, simu unaweka, haifanyi kazi, hakuna network.
Access to electricity is a key indicator for improved living standards of communities. Most marginalized areas have low electricity connectivity due to sparse populations and low affordability of potential users.
Stima sana kama hata itafika. Sioni. Mimi siwezi sema kitu hapo kwa sababu ni kitu ambaye najua hiyo ni kama history.
While developing the second policy, the Commission adhered to the principles of equity, transparency, and efficiency in resource distribution and use. The Commission recommends that the Equalization Fund be used to improve services in water, health, and education sectors. Discussions were held with communities to identify priority projects to be implemented.
Hatutaki pesa ya kuchezea, kile tunahitaji ni idara tatu. Maji ndio muhimu, na education na hospitali.
Tupate afya mzuri, tuwe na maji mzuri. Ndio tuende shule, lazima tupate maji kwanza, watoto waoge na watoto wakunywe maji.
The policy has identified 1,424 sub-locations spread across 34 counties and 111 constituencies in Kenya as being the most marginalized. The Commission further recommends that high-deserving minority groups identified as Iwaata, Makonde, El Molo, and Dorobo Saletia deserve specific projects targeted at them to improve their socio-economic conditions.
The Commission has just completed its 5-year strategic plan. Our vision is that no Kenyan will be left behind. This is a policy that breathes life to that vision. And if projects are implemented to improve access to education, access to health, and access to water, indeed, no Kenyan will be left behind.